This is Algebra 1, Lesson 3.2, solving equations using multiplication and division. Two goals we're solving linear equations using multiplication and division, and we're using multiplication and division to solve problems. We have a few definitions to start. Properties of equalities are rules of algebra used to transform equations into equivalent equations. We'll talk about the steps that they show, the solution steps. When you're talking about the ratio of A to B, it says if A and B are two quantities measured in the same units, then the ratio of A to B is written like that, A to B, or A over B. So if they're measured in the same units, A to B. Similar triangles are two triangles that have equal corresponding angles. Similar does not mean the exact same. This triangle is similar to this triangle, even though clearly they are not the same. They have 90-degree angles. This angle is the same angle as this one, and this angle here is the same angle as this one. The lengths of the sides are very different, though. Similar triangles, same angles, not the same sides. Transformations that produce equivalent equations. The first one, we talked about this last week, that addition cancels out subtraction, and subtraction cancels out addition. So addition and subtraction are paired together. When you have something saying minus on one side, you add it to both sides and it'll cancel it out. When you have something saying plus on one side, you subtract it on both sides and it'll cancel it out. Multiplication and division work the same way. Multiplication cancels out division, and division cancels out multiplication. This first one says x divided by 2. That's how you read that, divided by 2. If you multiply that side by 2, it will cancel this out and leave you with just x. But remember, to keep it balanced, if you multiply one side by 2, you must do it to the other side to get 3 times 2, and that's why x is equal to 6. Division also cancels out multiplication. This next one, 4 times x, you want to get x by itself, so you cancel out times something by dividing. We want to keep x, so divide by 4. If you divide the left, again, balance says you have to do it to the right, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. X is 3. Example number 1 says dividing each side of an equation. Solve 8x is equal to negative 3. It says on the left side of the equation, x is multiplied by 8. To isolate x, you need to undo the multiplication by applying the inverse operation. Remember, all inverse operations means is what cancels it out of dividing by 8. So undo that by dividing that side by 8. If you do it to one side, remember you do the exact same thing to the other side. So you have 8x divided by 8 is equal to negative 3 divided by 8. This one cancels out this one and leaves you with x. And x's value is negative 3 over 8. So again, undo or cancel out multiplication using division. On the back, do this one. Solve negative 3x is equal to 2. Take about 15 or 20 seconds. Again, your goal, just like addition and subtraction, is to get x isolated all by itself. It says negative 3 times x. Remember, don't even look at the other side. Just look at this side. You want to get x by itself. It says multiply those two, so you divide to cancel it out. You want to keep x, so the only thing that's not x that you can see right there is negative 3. When you divide the left by negative 3, remember you do the exact same thing to the right. X is negative 2/3. Remember, it doesn't matter where you put your negative. top or bottom or middle. But if you put it at both the top and the bottom, it becomes a negative divided by a negative, which makes it a positive, and that's not what you want to show. Example number 2 is multiplying each side of an equation. So we just canceled out multiplication by dividing. Now we want to cancel out division by multiplying. It says x divided by negative 3. Cancel out division by multiplying by negative 3. This will cancel this out and leave you with just x. If you multiply the left by negative 3, do likewise to the right. 60 times negative 3 gives us x's value, which is negative 180. Multiply both sides by negative 3. It cancels it here and leaves you just with x is what you want. A negative times a positive, 60 times 3 is going to be a negative 180. Again, multiplication undoes or cancels out division. On the back, this one. X over 9 is equal to negative 25. Take 20 seconds. Again, we want to get x by itself. That's the goal. We want it to say x equals. It doesn't say that. Right now it says x over 9. You could read that as x divided by 9. We know how to cancel out divide by something. You multiply by what's not x right there, 9. That will cancel it out. Remember, whatever you do to one side, you must do likewise to the other side. We know 8 quarters gives us $2. So 9 quarters must be $2.25. So 225. And then a positive times a negative, opposite signs, is negative 225. Okay. Example number 3 is multiplying each side by a reciprocal. This will save you an entire step. If you look just at this part of the equation, negative 3 over 4, m is equal to 15. You can read that as negative 3 over 4 times m. We know how to undo times something. We did it a minute ago. You divide by something. But we're dividing by negative 3 over 4. So it would look like this. Negative 3 over 4 times m equals 15. We would be dividing by negative 3 over 4. That'll cancel it out and leave you with m. That's correct to do that. And then when you divide one side, you have to divide the other side by negative 3 over 4. Now, what multiplying by the reciprocal does is it saves you an entire step. Dividing by a fraction, we said it in our bell work, is the exact same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. So it would become 15 times negative 4 over 3. So instead of showing this step at all, anytime you're multiplying by a fraction, you can multiply by the reciprocal. Notice on this line, that's all that happened. What that will do is it will cancel everything out, and again, just save you a step. 4 cancels out 4, negative 3 cancels out negative 3, so it's gone. Everything's over 1. You can cross cancel the 3's, or you can multiply straight across. 4 times 15 is 60, and 3 times 1 is 3. Negative 60 divided by 3 gives you negative 20 for that one. So again, it saves you a step, multiplying by the reciprocal. Instead of writing twice, you just have to write once. So on the back, everybody, this one, 14 is equal to negative 7 over 8 times m. Solve that for m. Take about 30 seconds. Okay, right here we're multiplying by -7/8. So if you need to rewrite it, you can. -7/8 times m, where you can see it, equals 14. You would divide by -7/8, but again, since it's a fraction, multiply by its reciprocal, -8/7. This will cancel out this. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side. -8/7. Everything's over 1. Now, cross canceling will help you tremendously with this problem, to where you don't have to deal with big numbers. The number 7 goes into itself once, and it goes into 14 twice. So -8/1 times 2/1. And -8 times 2 is -16/1. So m's value is -16. Here are properties of equality. The addition property of equality. If A is equal to B, so if those numbers are the same, then A plus C is equivalent to B plus C. It's exactly the same. That's why it says properties of equality, because it's equivalent. It is the same. Subtraction property of equality works just like the addition property. If A is equal to B, then A minus C is the same thing, or it's equal to B minus C. Multiplication property, same thing. If they're equal to each other, then when you multiply C times A, it's got to be the same thing as C times B. And then the division property of equality says if A is equal to B and C's not 0, because you can't have 0 at the bottom of a fraction, then A divided by C has got to be equal to B divided by C. So notice all 4 of these properties say the exact same thing. If A is equal to B, then when you add them, it's going to be the same. When you subtract them, it's going to be the same. When you multiply them, it's going to be the same. And when you divide them, it's going to be the same. So if they're the same, it doesn't matter what operation you use, they're going to remain the same after. Then you have a checkpoint on the back. It says 9x is equal to 72. Get x by itself by undoing the fact that says 9 times x. Undo times by dividing. You want to keep x, so divide by what's not x. In this case, it's 9. When you do it to the left side, do the exact same thing to the right. 72 divided by 9 is 8. 4 is equal to 11m. We want to get m all by itself. It says 11 times m. Undo times by dividing. You want to divide by what's not m, since the m is the one you want to keep. 11. You divide the right, divide the left. 4 divided by 11, there's no numbers that they share, no factors they share in common. M is equal to 4/11. Y over -6 is equal to -15. Y over -6 equals -15. That says divided by -6. Undo divided by multiplying. We want to keep y. That's our goal. So divide by what's not y. -6 is not y. When you multiply the left by -6, you do the same thing to the right. A negative times a negative is going to be a positive. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 1 plus 3 is 90. -5/2 is equal to n over 2. Again, n divided by 2. -5/2 equals n divided by 2. We want to get n equaled all by itself. It says divide by 2, so cancel that out by multiplying by 2. That'll go away and leaves you just with m. That's what you were trying to get. You multiply the right, do likewise on the left. If you multiply straight across, -5 times 2, you get -10. And when you divide it by 2, you get -5. You could have also cross-canceled them and got the same thing. But number 5, it says negative 2 over 9b is equal to 18. So that says times b. Negative 2 over 9 times b is equal to 18. You could choose to undo multiplication by dividing by negative 2 over 9. But remember, after you divide by negative 2 over 9, you're going to have to flip it and multiply anyway. So save yourself a step and multiply by the reciprocal right from the beginning. Negative 9 over 2. If you multiply the left, do likewise on the right. Negative 9 over 2. Remember, you could cross cancel this. The number 2 goes into itself once and into 18 9 times. So you're left with 9 times negative 9. B's value, a negative times a positive is a negative, and 9 times 9 is 81. Same thing for the last one. You could divide by 2/5, but you'll do better by multiplying by the reciprocal, which means to flip it, 5 over 2. You multiply the left, do likewise on the right. 3 over 35 times 5 over 2 is going to be equal to, this will cancel this, and this will cancel this, A. The number 5 goes into both of these numbers, gives us very much smaller numbers to deal with. It goes into itself once and into 35 7 times. 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 7 is 14. A's value is 3 over 14.